What's up, guys and gals? This is Griever back here, bringing you guys Akatsuki no Yona, also known as Yona of the Dawn. Chapter 197, best chapter, I'm not sure, I'm close to saying of the year. I think, 2020, you know what? You know the faith I have in the manga anime community? You know why I have faith? Because Bleach, Inuyasha, Shaman King, all 2021. Japan knows what it's doing. They're like, we already know 2020 is shit. We already know it's scrapped, so we're not even going to plan for that. 2020 is crap. So let's just look to the future. Those guys in Asia are goddamn smart, right? So, but here, it doesn't mean that we can't get phenomenal arcs and chapters in 2020 to keep us satisfied, to keep us here, and this is one of them. I mean, One Piece did a few, Black Clover, My Hero Academia. There's been plenty of some One Punch Man ones. 2020 hasn't been terrible in that way. And this chapter, Yona has been suffering almost all of 2020, in my opinion. It hasn't been bad necessarily, but it's been suffering. And right here, we're done with this flashback. I thought the flashback would go to chapter 199, and then 200 would be this chapter, right? That's what I thought, that we were waiting for chapter 200 to be this chapter. That's how hype this chapter is. This is milestone hundreds chapter worthy. This chapter, damn, because everything here, guys, I almost wanted to do a live stream for it, but unfortunately I read it and I feel like a live stream should always be a live reaction. So what I'm going to do is pour myself a fresh, full beer, as you can tell. And for anybody who's watching under the legal drinking age in your country of origin, that is apple juice. That being said, I have to actually sort of do a semi-read-through. I'm not going to read through everything, but I don't want to miss anything I wanted to talk about. I reread this chapter like 6 times since it came out. Then I went and ate supper, and then I read it again. So now I'm here, and I'm ready to talk about it. Already. I was sort of surprised. I shouldn't have been, considering the way chapter 196 ended. But I was kind of surprised that we jump back to Yona. She has finished. She has finally finished the flashback, the story, which, for all intents and purposes, did not really do much for us. However, this chapter makes it all tied together. There's still flaws with how the flashback was handled. There's still flaws with the way they went about it. But here, I don't know if it's an intentional fix, if the mangaka was listening to us and stuff. I would think, as any author, mangaka, doesn't matter what you are listening to your fan base. I would like to think that you are not just huddled in a cave in the fetal position and that's all you do. You go on Twitter. You go on Facebook. I'm sure you type your own name into Google once you get famous, right? So you know what people are saying, and you know what people are saying about your works and about your interviews and all that stuff, right? And about you. So I don't know if this chapter was intentionally supposed to be this soon. I don't know if this is supposed to be sort of, not a fix, but just maybe? Because it's here. All right, I don't want this to be an hour-long video, so let's just get right into it. If you guys want an hour-long video, I'll do a live stream for chapter 200, I promise you. So that'll be a couple hours, so don't worry about that. But anyway, let's just jump right in, because right here, she's already reading. Yona, we're back to Yona. Yona's still there in the stack of books, the stack of notes, and she's reading, and she's finished the memoir, the story from Soo-won's mother. And it's basically confirmed here. We're going to take this as fact. There was doubt before, but the way they're portraying this is now, we have gone on too many chapters under these assumptions, and now I feel like what we did see was the truth. There might be a little hidden nugget that they can pull out later on in another arc, yeah, that did all happen, but there was one key piece of information you were missing. It doesn't change anything huge, but maybe the way you view it sort of nugget of information left. because there still are gaps in this flashback, which was a big problem with it. But here, mother was murdered by Uncle Yu-hon, and that's why father killed him. Right now, we're supposed to take this as fact, though I still do not believe that Yu-hon did kill Kashi. I don't believe that, but this is what we're led to believe. So we're going to go off on that. But that's not the point here. This is a key thing right here on page 3 already that I was talking about. The fact of the matter is that Kashi apparently could not see her own future, but technically through other people she could. And this confirms it. And I stated this for 2 chapters already. So go back and watch those if you don't believe me. It states here that I wasn't riding in the carriage that was attacked, but it must have been because mother felt something and didn't allow me to. She protected me because she could see Yona's future. And it'd be kind of hard to, not see your own if you're standing beside her, right? So it's not a direct seeing her own future necessarily, but I'm not arguing it. I'm going to let it slide because it makes more sense. Okay, she can't directly look into her own future, but if she's there at the time of somebody else's future, she'll still be able to see herself there in that moment because she's there. Otherwise, her future sight is flawed, and I don't believe it is. Her future sight has so far been correct. So this just proves my theory, and I'm kind of happy about that. So already, I'm appeased. I was appeased the moment I read this, starting the chapter off. 2 reasons why. Number 1, we're done with the flashback. Number 2, my theory was proven right. That is why Yona wasn't in the carriage, because Kashi, though she can't see her own future, she knew it was, if she took Yona, Yona probably would have died. She saw that future and prevented it. Or she saw disaster or whatever. Maybe it wasn't clear, but she was like, I can't take Yona with me because something bad is going to happen. So logically, she knew she was either going to get hurt or dead. So, all right, so that's pretty cool, right? So I like that part. So that's just me basically, fanning myself sort of idea. Okay, so after this, it continues on, and it's actually, this is amazing. I didn't even consider this. I don't know if anybody else even considered this either, that this letter, this memoir, this journal was for ill. Because that's what we jump to. And Yona is shocked by this. Your Majesty ill. I beg you to find it in yourself. And basically, this is a pleading letter. She has told her life story, her autobiography, and all her worries, and all her shame, and all her discretions, and all her fears, her hopes. She's conveyed it all. Sort of like a last will and testament, like a confessional before somebody dies, like a deathbed confession, I believe they call it. And that is no truer than right here in this chapter. And it's shocking because we go on and we can sympathize with this woman. I've been sympathizing with her this whole time. Yon-hee, I felt like she took on too much self-purpose, and I already discussed that in a previous chapter. But also she takes the burden on, and we'll get into how I think I was once again proven right in a way, and I'm just so giddy about it. So yeah, more fanning of the Pharaoh over here. So she is very self-doubting. She's a very oppressed woman. We can just tell this in the writing and the way she speaks about herself and her own problems. But she continues to say, and Yona is shocked by this, of course, as we all are, and says, she desires this out of a desire to prevent the future that might befall King ill, or Your Majesty ill, and Yona by all means necessary. Yon-hee is terrified of what is going to happen due to these things. She believes them all to be fact, and it's confirmed here. Like, the only thing not confirmed from this flashback, well, there's a couple of things, but the main thing is, was Kashi killed by Yu-hon? We don't have true confirmation of that. What we do have is that Il did in fact kill Yu-hon. That was something that was debated in the fan base since the beginning. Some of us believed it, some of us didn't. Some of us were kind of like, okay, there was a reason. And once again, I can sympathize with Il in that way because we were only seeing one side of Yu-hon, but I'm pretty sure that no matter really who kills my wife, I can step into Il's shoes with that stuff, right? So if I believed I was face to face with her murderer, you know, are you allowed to admit that shit on YouTube? I don't know. Anyways, so here we're having this deathbed confession, and it's all very shocking information. And this has got me on my toes. I must have reread when I first read this, guys. I was rereading every single like dialogue bubble. I was rereading it again and again. Like I must have stayed on each page like for a few minutes or longer. You know, usually you just read it, okay, the art, and then you go, you know, a minute, maybe two at the most. I must have spent 4 or 5 minutes on each page, rereading it over and over, just making sure I got it all straight. And she's, we already saw her reaction with soo-won. So basically what she's talking about in the next few pages is that soo-won, she's still loves her child. At first, you know, it was kind of going down the road of a bit of a Damien vibe sort of idea, the Omen, you know, sort of feeling, Rosemary's Baby, anybody. All these references, none of my fan base is going to get, are you? You're all so young. Anyways, that didn't sound creepy. Anyways, so here, it was leading down that road. She said she was deeply frightened by her own child. And, you know, do you want to, with a straight face, just like, do you want to kill His Majesty? I mean, he killed your husband, he killed my father. I mean, we're all angry and stuff. And she sees all the delegates and all the court officials and everyone. They're all gathering around because Il killed Yu-hon, and they know it. And they are going to eventually strike back. So she doesn't know what to do in this situation. She's bedridden, the headaches are worse. She doesn't know what to do. And this is incredible. This whole chapter, I don't know if I can convey it. I'm sure that everyone watching my review has read the chapter and you feel the same way. I don't think there's a single fan of this series that doesn't think that this is an 11 out of 10 chapter. This chapter is incredible. So I'm just not doing it justice here. I'm rambling like an idiot over here, you know, trying to make a half-decent review. And I must need more of this to keep talking about this, because I feel like I'm all over the map here because I'm just so passionate. I'm just so like enthralled with what is going on here. Every page felt like a weight, you know? You know how you have some chapters in manga where you're just kind of like, okay, it's a bit of a they fight chapter. It's not a bad chapter. It's not a, oh my God, 2020's greatest chapter either, but you know, chapter of the year. But, and there's no big reveal or anything, but it doesn't mean it's a bad chapter, but some chapters just, you hang off of every line. You know, some scenes in movies, some chapters in books, you read every word, like each word is lifting a weight. You know what I mean? Like, it's one rep. Every page of this manga chapter is just one more rep. And you're building it up, and you can feel the burn, but you like that burn, right? You like that burn. This is a bit of a workout reference, so anybody who doesn't lift weights ain't gonna get it. But it's like, that burn feels good. Yeah, your muscles are tired. Yeah, your arm is sore. Your legs, whatever you're working out. Your chest, doesn't matter. You feel it. You're feeling it. And it's like, yeah, but you feel good about it. It's a good burn. It's a good stretch, you know? So yeah, I hope I'm conveying that. I mean, I just went on a 4-minute rant about it, but I hope I'm conveying this properly, guys. This is why I'm sort of semi-going through the chapter, making sure I'm not missing any points, because there's a lot to go over, and I'm just not... If I did... Like, maybe I should have just done a read-through, because I feel like this is not going the way I wanted, but... and I can admit that in a recorded video, why not? But, yeah, like, she's just... I feel for this woman. As I said, she, like... At first, the pages were going, as I said, that Rosemary Baby, Damien vibe, right? And then, all of a sudden, it switches around, you know? Sort of, and then I was kind of thinking, okay, maybe we got a bit of a Norman Bates thing going on, but that would be weird because soo-won doesn't dress like a woman. Anyways, well, I mean, the robes, the hair, a little bit of feminism. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. But I've loved that child most dearly in the next page. So though she was fearful of everything we saw, it's like this child, and a lot of people, in my comment section, the Reddits, all those things were basically saying like, after the last chapter, it was like, why are you just standing by? This child is clearly like got no empathy, is a psychopath. By lacking empathy and proper emotional connection, you are categorized with lack of empathy and sympathy and such. You are categorized as a psychopath. And by this logic, I mean, that's a broad, way to classify it. But forgive me for not being, 10 years of medical school, to do it. But I'm pretty sure I can, calmly say that a 9-year-old, 8-year-old basically being like, all right, I'm going to get together with literally the kingdom's like court officials. That'd be like a 9-year-old going up to the U.S. government with all the Secret Service, all the Black Ops, all the, the red files, whatever they call them, the Black Ops files, all the military secrets in the world, basically going, all right, well, here's what we're going to do. And this is a 9-year-old, and then be like, all right, we need to assassinate 3 world leaders because they did this, this, and this, and this. Just straight-faced, like, that would be terrifying for a 9-year-old to just be straight-faced about it all, right? So I understand this. This is creepy. And a lot of people were like, God damn it, even if they like soo-won. I like soo-won. I realized that he's not actually a psychopath. He has emotions. We even saw it in the Raging Fire. His hatred, because his eyes were burning. He was looking at the fire. He's filled with a rage and a wrath. We know this. And then we also saw glimpses of it in Hawk's flashbacks and stuff. He never wanted to give up Hawk and Yona. He never wanted to give them up. So he's not actually a psychopath. I said all that to lead that, full circle. Soo-won is not a psychopath because he feels these emotions. He's just doing what he feels he needs to be done. And it's recognized here. It's recognized by his own mother saying that, all the behavior he puts on display, it's a facade. We knew this, of course, but she has recognized it already in her child. And it doesn't deceive her any longer. It doesn't deceive her anymore. And now that she is face to face with death and all this stuff, but she still loves her child that much. And she says, I've never doubted it, no matter how much I think and logically and stuff like that. It doesn't matter. I still love my son. My son is still my son, and I love him for who he is. But that being said, she also says, and this is why I have decided to convey my memoir to you, my lord. Something that is sure to, why would I do this? Telling you all this, writing this all in a letter, because by this stance, Il would be intelligent in this way to basically be like, all right, well, thanks for telling me who my Judas is, right? I mean, his brother sort of burned women and children at the stake, lobbed, at this point we're led to believe all that is actually true, and he was a bit of a monster, though we never really saw that, which was one of the big core problems with the flashback. We're never led to believe that yu-hon was capable of these things. We're just told it happened once again. But assuming this, it'd be like, okay, but I mean, he's just gonna grow up and try to kill you, right? So, I mean, if you got rid of him and his supporters now, maybe that wouldn't happen, but so she brings this up basically like, yeah, why would I do this? It would probably hurt my son and stuff. And she basically puts the blame about the Lord High Priest harboring a misguided view and a feeling of akin to a prejudice. And I made a mistake that could have been avoided. That is the truth, but I understood that the Lord High Priest had we been able to meet halfway, had I begged Lord Yu-hon. So all this stuff that she's conveying has all been about her own regrets, that she wasn't strong enough. She was not a Joan of Arc, a Judge Judy, a woman who speaks her goddamn mind. She was not the one to stand up. She's no Anna from Shaman King, right? So, and she is regretting this now on her deathbed, that all these tragedies, and she talks about it, all the tragedies, the death of the priest, the death of her mother, the finding out of this, falling in love with Yu-hon, Kashi's death, all of these things are her fault, and she's taking all this blame upon herself. And she wants to she's done with it. She knows she can't fix the past, and she hasn't gone insane in that way. What she's realized is that There needs to be no lingering hatred. We have to cut this now. We can't let this continue. It can't continue to Soo-won and Yona. It can't continue to their children. And it can't continue to the tribe's children. Like, we have to stop this now. We just need to forgive. We need to recognize that A, B, and C happened. They were tragedies. We're all at fault. We all have blood on our hands. But our children cannot be a part of our own mistakes as adults. That's basically, she doesn't say this directly, but that's basically what she's saying. She goes, we have to, whoom, big cleaver, bam, cut the cord. No consequences, no retaliations, no revenges, no nothing. Everything, it's a tragedy what has transpired over the last few decades. Everything that has happened has been the fault of all of us in our own ways, big and small. We need to stop it. And I complained, a lot of people complained about her character. I didn't complain as much as I saw a lot of other people complain about Yon-hee's character. But here we are getting a massive, like, if you don't respect her for all these words of wisdom, she is spitting nothing but facts. Everything she is saying is acute, to the point, no obtuse, no left, right, any of that shit. She is straight down that tunnel. Here we go. There is no other way to see it. And I shouldn't have phrased it that way, because it's not tunnel vision we're talking about here. She's seeing it all. She's not looking left. She's not looking right. She's not looking center. She's seeing everything. She's got 20/20 eyes. She's seeing it all. And she's recognizing, here are the problems. There, here's a black canvas and there's 5 white dots. I can tell you where the problems are. Click, 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 click. Plain as day. And I love that she's reached this point as an observer. She was never really partaking in anything that actually transpired. She was always background. She was witness or heard about it or was involved, but never actually a cog in that machine. And now she's here conveying that she's seen it all, and now she knows sort of, here's what we have to do. She doesn't want Yona and Soo-won to grow apart. She doesn't want any of this stuff to go down. She's worried about Soo-won. She knows what he's planning. She knows what he's going to do. And she asks for reconciliation because of the children. So she continues just to talk all this stuff, right? And in the end, Yona also finds a letter. And at first I was thinking, like, when I first got to this point in the chapter, which we're not even halfway through, so we're going to be here a little bit longer. When I first got to this point in the chapter, I figured that Il never got this letter. That's what I figured. Il never got it. Soo-won got a hold of it, which he clearly did. But, however, now it's going to be on the other hand, because he did get it. Yona finds the response hidden in this bookmark sort of journal thingy sort of idea. And Yona starts to understand why Il was never able to give. And so now we're starting to piece together Il's position towards Soo-won. It's all coming together. All right, it's all coming together. And Yona is recognizing this as well. And then she starts to read the response letter written in her father's handwriting. And he writes to her saying that he is, weeping. He's crying while trying to write this letter. And he forced himself to write it, saying that you basically are not at fault. He forgives her, saying it was not you. It was 2 estranged brothers. And this leads us, this is making a lot more sense now. Is that though on the outside it seemed like Il was, passive and just, but I still, I'm not as aggressive and this, that. I'm not my brother. However, I'm not the football star. I'm the nerd. I keep to myself. I'm an introvert. He's the extrovert, loved by everybody. But we're still brothers and we still love each other and stuff and respect each other. This goes on, and it's the best explanation because we as readers could have read this. We could have theorized this. And maybe some of you did, but I did not. I always thought that, that's common. Il and yu-hon, though they are two different people, they are still brothers. They still love, trust, and respect each other. But as Il writes, sure, they might have loved each other, but the respect, the trust, that was not mutual. And he writes about this, saying that Yon-hee has blamed herself for the suppression of the priests and the severing of the ties of two brothers. But you are mistaken. For many years, this is the way we were. And envy clashed within Il. And we remember that scene where he sort of finally stood up to yu-hon. And in this way, Il was finally strong because he writes how he never could stand up to him. That he would always bark his own views at him, and he would calmly take it in when he wanted to talk to him as an equal. And he never felt that he could actually sit down with his brother, have a couple of beers, have a discussion, and have different viewpoints. He could never actually talk to his own brother because there was no respect and no trust. They were polar opposites with different things they valued, different things they wanted to protect, different ideologies. And they never really, because the only way I can explain it is that they still both actually loved each other, but they could never come together and have that conversation because they didn't want to dislike each other. You can love someone and not really like them. It's always been a key thing in a lot of, big overarching friendship and love, and here's how, I can love you, but I don't have to like you sort of idea. You're my son and I'll always love you. But, you can't live this way. I won't associate with you because I don't agree with you. They were both scared. In the way this portrays to me is that because they loved each other, and I still hold that to be true, they were so scared of actually openly discussing, sitting down and having real talks. Because if they did, they'd realize that they will never see eye to eye. And they will never agree on the fundamental things they both hold dear and believe in. And they didn't want that wedge between them. And by avoiding that, though, by avoiding that entire discussion, by avoiding doing that, they actually created the wedge and didn't even recognize it themselves. Until it came to this point. Until it came to the point when the Lord Priest first met, the High Priest first met Yon-hee, and Il, in his envy, which he describes himself, decided to, shout these things that were not true of heart. He even says it, I was envious. I did not mean the actual things I said. I didn't even believe them myself. But I was so bitter and so resentful and envious of all these things. The negative emotions had built up so much. And he writes that there was no mutual trust. They were different completely, and they were both mutually exclusive. I knew I was a cause of concern because long before I had been a dismissal of a failure while speaking up to him. My body would tremble, and I'd be at a loss for words, and I shall always regret that memory. So he writes about the day that he confronted yu-hon, and he tells yu-hon that what he wanted to say to him, what he wanted him to understand was that he was no different than his brother. They had finally found something that they both did. He loved Yon-hee, willing to burn people at the stake to protect her. And he loved Kashi. His brother couldn't see past that. His brother would never listen and say he believed that Kashi was a devil witch and all this stuff, right? And he just wanted to have that connection with his brother and say, there is something that we both can agree on. We both love and cherish our wives, our soulmates, and we are willing to protect them at all costs. We love them unconditionally. And he wanted to share that because he sort of figured that out. And he realized that that's one thing, finally, one thing they can both sort of almost agree on. And he couldn't say it. Because he says, Yona was the reincarnation of the Crimson Dragon King. And that Kashi was her mother. Those were not the things I wanted to tell him. Not the things I wanted him to understand. I knew he would never understand or believe in that religion. He just wanted yu-hon to know that he loved Kashi. That's all he wanted his brother to know. But he knew his own brother would not believe that those were his own thoughts. He would think that his own brother was weak, that he was misguided, that he was being taken in by a harlot, all that sort of jazz, right? So he couldn't say it. And this is tragic. This is powerful, guys. This is strong. Narratively, this has got to be one of the strongest chapters in all of Yona. It's got to be one of them. If not, like it's right here. Like, we got some backstories and stuff that are really bad too. But like this, just wanting him to believe that his wife was legit. That his feelings for his wife were legit. And that's all he wanted to be able to tell him. And he couldn't do it. Because he knew his brother would just throw it back in his face. And unfortunately with Il, had they been able to, once again, this is why I brought up the whole conversation previously. This review is going to be fucking long. This is why I brought up the whole thing about them trying to avoid creating a wedge that they both recognized would happen, but it happened anyway as a result. And because they didn't just get over that, because at the time, it'd be a little wedge. It'd be like this, right? And they'd recognize already, because that's why I talked to my brother. We disagree on so many major topics and how to handle them. We agree on the fundamentals, Nobody should be persecuted. Nobody should be judged based on this. Racism is bad. This is bad. That's bad. Right? We agree on that. It's when you start to get into the nitty-gritty, to the details, to the individual cases. We're sort of going different directions. But this is why we talk. So that you don't go 30 years without talking to your brother about what matters, what's going on in the world, what's important, what's going on in life. And then all of a sudden just to be like, well, I'm in a dark place, but I don't feel like I can talk to my brother. That's how depression, anxiety, and suicide happens, right? When you don't feel like you can talk to anybody because you're worried about what they'll think. Well, me and my brother know that we disagree on everything, and this is why. See, this little wedge of not talking became an even bigger wedge than it would have been had they talked in the first place. Had they been talking for years, then maybe yu-hon would have sat down. And for the sake of his love and trust in his brother, because even if you disagree and fundamentally don't agree with a lot of what they do, you can still have a level of faith in what you do believe, the good qualities in your brother. So, or your family, it doesn't matter. Like, just here it happens to be brothers. So, this all boils down to the fact that the wedge they were so worried about, that they kept avoiding, they didn't want to caused the biggest wedge possible. In the end, a brother killing another brother because he couldn't even tell that he loved his wife. Like, it's just, man, this is some Shakespearean level shit here, right? And it's actually really heartbreaking when you consider it. So he goes on to say, and Yona's crying while reading this, says, everything had passed according to her visions, and her own death, she knew about it. She knew that soo-won would end up killing him. That was apparently also prophesied. So without even Yon-hee telling him, my son is going to come after you one day. I still love him, but I just don't know what to do. We have to stop this, right? He's like, yeah, I already knew about it. Sort of idea. Said, I shall be murdered by him. And that was too prophesized, but I shall not repel his attack. And this is where we come to the, I will not carry a weapon. And this is where the no weapons thing starts to make a lot more sense. We're starting to get the thing. He's trying to prevent the hatred. He's like, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. I'm not agreeing with everything Il did. I think and the people were wrong. And Il himself recognized, I'm a coward, I'm pathetic, and I'm not a good king. I'm not suited for this role. And I know it. And eventually, he's going to come and kill me, and it'll be justified because I killed his father. And he's like, but I will not carry a weapon. And that's why to this day, he never carried a weapon, because he didn't know when soo-won would attack, just that he would. And on that day, he was just going to let himself be killed, because that's what had to happen. And the level of faith this guy has, I mean, it's fair enough, but it's confirmed here. Not only was it prophesized, then Yon-hee writes a letter to him, which he reads, and he's like, well, another one of Kashi's prophecies. That's like, how many is that? Is that 18 out of 18 so far? I'm pretty sure that she knew what she was talking about then, right? So yeah, this is just so good. And so he said, I'll decline to fight. I won't repel his attack. And we see this tragic scene of him sitting in the blood of his brother going, I do not want to kill ever again. And this is what stemmed his philosophy as a king from here on out. He hated spilling blood. He hated fighting. He hated his own bloody hands and did not want that for himself again. He didn't want it for anyone. And, I mean, so Il is a very tragic character. And the fact of the matter is that he realized he never wanted to become king. He never wanted this, that. But then we see a very shocking shot here of yu-hon standing as all the priests burn on stakes. My elder brother must never become king. Once again, the only issue with the flashback, not the only, but the major issue, is that every scene we have seen of yu-hon does not show him doing this. It does not depict that this guy would do this mercilessly. I want to see a scene, and it's not for a morbid reason, guys, but I want to see a scene of him literally, stone cold face, tying up children, and teenagers, and young women, and all these priests, and lighting the flame, going, serves you right. I want to see him pull some Sith Lord level shit before I'm actually going to take everybody's word for this stuff. I know they died. I know it was on his orders, but what else did he know? This is what I'm talking about, that one last nugget of information. I think that's why it's still ambiguous. That's why we don't see it. We're only seeing like the mental images and such. Because the guy we were portrayed would not do that. And what am I supposed to believe? That yu-hon was actually like a goby behind the scenes that we never saw a single inkling of. Sure, if you want to depict the fact that the dude was bipolar and he had a crazy evil alter ego ready to kill everybody, you got to show it to us in a flashback. You can't take a beloved, lovable character like him. Yeah, he could be scary. Yeah, he was a warlord. Yeah, he fought in wars and killed people. But the two things he did, lobbing the heads over the wall and burning of the priests, those are actions we never actually saw him do. And to this day, I'm still doubtful that we got the full story there, or it was really poorly written and we should have seen more of the evil of yu-hon. Because we never saw his evil. We never saw any scene where we were like, okay, this guy's a little fucked up. This guy's a little twisted. And he puts on, like his son, able to put on the show sort of idea. But I never felt like he was putting on a show all the flashback chapters. So what is it? Is he bipolar? Is he schizophrenic? Is he something else? Does he have some evil Diablo demon possessing him once in a while? Which says, burn the priests, burn the priests. It's not adding up. That's the one problem. But I digress because this is still an amazing chapter. So Il was made sure that he was like, yeah, no, he can't become king. So he even says, like, I'm not really here to be a king. I'm just here to wait for the next king. I'm here to wait as long as I can for Yona to go find the 4 dragons, which was predicted once again by Kashi. And I will not allow anything like this to happen. Keeps people away from him. You know, all that stuff. And says he'll find it difficult to be around Soo-won. And Soo-won clearly seemed to not know anything. I'm going to assume that he came into possession of this journal, of this letter, either soon after he killed Il or relatively soon before he killed Il. I don't think he got it until many years later. And clearly it didn't change his mind if he did. But, yeah, so he said that, he will not, kill Yona, apparently, and stuff like that. But it's so strange because the way he talks about Yona and Soo-won and everything and her becoming lonely, like, basically this is why he decided on Hawk. He was basically like, Soo-won, if we knew nothing of this, if none of Kashi's visions were true, if you didn't write me this, if yu-hon, if Soo-won was not like this, then I could entrust, but I can't. Like, I know that one day, though he might not actually kill her, he will discard her. And this will be traumatic and she'll be filled with loneliness. So now I need to find someone who will never betray her, someone who will stand by her side. Talking about Hawk, of course, this is why he picked Hawk. He picked the strongest dude he knew who could also be a childhood friend and would never betray. He found someone of noble and honest heart. It's all coming together. Oh yeah, it's all coming together. So this makes total sense. Full agreement here. It's very, he talks about like still going to his brother for advice, and he imagines him giving him his advice, but finally being able to speak to him the way he always wished he could have years and years and years ago. Maybe things would have turned out different, as I talked about, the wedge analogy, which I will keep. How many times can I say wedge in one video? Well, if it goes, Jesus, this must be 45 minutes now. So he wonders about this, but he just says, I have no intent to get rid of this. This is my, here's my letter back to you. Do not blame yourself. It is what it is. I will be killed by your son one day, but I will make sure that Yona will have someone by her side that will not betray her. And hopefully, like, it's basically, he doesn't really state this, but it's implied, like, it's sort of like, it's in our children's hands. Because you're dead. You're going to be dead if you're not dead by the time of me writing this letter. I'm going to be dead by your son's hand. His father's dead. Her mother's dead. Everyone will be dead. And hopefully something can happen in their generation. I think he sort of had a hope for the future, especially bringing Hawk into the mix, is that he was praying and hoping, unless maybe Kashi gave him a couple more visions we're not privy to, but that they would eventually reconcile in their age, in their generation. So this entire chapter was so heavy, and it was extremely emotional, extremely sad. There's a lot to go off. The chapter ends basically with Yona, reading the last few words. Il goes on about a few other things, about his own regrets and stuff, and then Yona, finishes the letter and holds it to her heart, sort of idea. So that's the end of the chapter. Now, the next chapter is supposed to come out, this month as well, like October 21st, 19th, 20th, something like that. The last week of October-ish. So that's really exciting because we'll probably get a translation a few days later. So we might actually have, like, it's already October. It'd be really nice to have another chapter in October. That'd be really cool. Because Yona's one of the best series. I mean, it does really well on my channel, and it's so damn good. And a chapter like this really shows you why. I think I've ranted long enough, guys. I don't really see the timestamp anywhere. I've got the computer's a little screwed up right now, so I can't see my timestamp or my clock. I'm assuming that this chapter, that this review has been going on maybe an hour by now. Hard to say. At least at over half an hour, easy. If it's not an hour, it's definitely somewhere in the middle. So I apologize for taking up so much of your time, guys, but there was a lot to go over. It's still shorter than a live stream, at least I hope it is. But I felt like this chapter deserved a dialogue by dialogue, sentence by sentence, page by page sort of analysis and all my thoughts, my feelings. I'm sure I'll have plenty of people writing me just as long, paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs of stuff. And guys, once again, just a quick shout out to all the people who do that. I love you all. I love that you guys give me these fantastic, huge, long essay level comments. I just feel so bad that I barely have time to, keep up with YouTube. So I don't really have time. I always read them all, just so we're clear. I always go through them and I always read them all. I just don't have the time to type out a full, as detailed response to every single point that you guys make. And I feel really bad for that. But I always try to acknowledge all the points I either think are like, yes, that's something I didn't think of, or wait, where did you get that? Anything I usually disagree with or find really interesting or something I didn't think of, I always try to bring that up. So don't get me wrong, guys. I always read your comments because sometimes I feel like maybe you guys don't think I do. So just making sure you guys know that. This is the end of the chapter, end of the review. Long one, long video, but like, comment, and subscribe, guys. I'm always very happy when I see that stuff. I hope the next chapter is just as fire. I think we're done with the mediocre flashback chapters. This chapter was absolutely lit. This chapter was fire. This chapter was incredible. And I'm just hoping for greatness from chapter 198 too. And we're so close to 200. I'm assuming something in 200 is going to be big. It's going to be big. So that being said, guys, once again, all the fun jazz, all the self-promoting. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Drink responsibly, as always. And we'll see you back here next time for Akatsuki no Yona, chapter 198. Stay tuned for that review, guys. See you next time.